Pacific, 4 Eastern. So I posted it in the Facebook page. So get it. It is only if you have the auction site. So I'm going to be going through that today at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Also, probably starting next week, I'm going to get a look at the calendar when we're done today. I'm going to take and do a couple, maybe a 2 to 4 week agent attraction mastermind. Just kind of go back to basics again and go from there. Guys, do me a favor, mute yourself. Any of my peeps there. Vicky, that's you.
Yeah, I'm off.
All right. So anyway, I want to take and come back and start doing maybe a 2 to 4 week little mastermind, maybe an hour a week on agent attraction. If at this point in time in real estate, if an agent doesn't understand how critical it is to have multiple sources of revenue through this COVID virus, right? When there was no business going on, deals weren't closing. Although for our group, I cannot say that that's the case. This is the time to get out and talk to agents and let them understand that having revenue come in from more than just closings is critical to their personal net worth, their survival, and et cetera. So I figured it's probably a good time. Joseph and I talked about it yesterday to kind of come back, go back to basics, and do that. Some of the states are opening up again. Some are not. And, like in Phoenix, I'm going to check today with our title company. I think we can start doing lunch and learns again here. So I figured it's a good time to go back to basics and go from there. So we'll start doing that. I'll post that schedule of when it is in the Facebook page. And that'll be a chance where you can role play that stuff with me, throw out what you're hearing, what objections you're getting, any of those kinds of things where it's live. And so we'll do something like that over the next few weeks to help that process go along. Because, that motto, we were built for this, the truth is we were. Because if you're getting revenue share in and you were impacted by closings, was your cash flow hurt that badly? And so it's just a good time to talk about that. So we're going to come back to that, and I'll post that in the Facebook page. So with that, what we're going to talk about today, and I don't know that we'll need an hour for it, is a program that I used to use years ago, and then Anna Brown, who's one of our agents in Phoenix, brought it up, whatever it was, a couple of months ago, and we think that it's important to talk to you about now. It's available in 29 states, but I also want you to understand, even if it's not available in your state, that as an agent attraction tool, if you know somebody in one of these states, it's a great way to take and generate business quickly. Right? And so we're going to take and talk about that today, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I gave you a lot of the bullet points, right? And they were really, really cool. But I want you to understand there's some ugly part of it too. So we're going to go through that. So I'm going to talk to Anna. But what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to read the states that it's available in. Okay? Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, District of Columbia, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Mississippi, North Carolina, New Jersey, Nevada, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and Wisconsin. So those are the states that's currently available in right now. And they will open in other states based on demand. And so it's basically driven by demand. But what I want you to understand is that it is a very powerful lead generation tool, but there's also some downsides to it, but it's still a powerful lead generation tool. And so let me give you a quick overview. There is no down payment required. There are no closing costs. There is no PMI. It is not FICO driven. And what else did I forget, Anna? There's a couple other things. Oh, the seller can actually buy the interest rate down. Anna, you closed the deal, what, a week or two ago? And what was the interest rate on it?
1/8%.
1/8. Yeah, you heard that right, guys. 1/8.
And I'll explain after we're done how I did that with my client. And she ended up getting about $35,000 total from the lender to help her do that. So there's a very specific way to do that. And I've done over 35 of these. So I am an expert at this program and getting the most bang for my buck.
So all that stuff's really cool. Let me tell you the downside. They get really busy and it takes time. Sometimes people will get tired of waiting and just say, you know what, I love that house. I'm going to just get a regular mortgage and let's do that. Would anybody's feelings be hurt if that's what they did? You're still going to close it.
Nope.
And that's the point. So, but it's real, and I just want you to know that. I don't want, everything always sounds, rainbows and unicorns. So there's some ugliness to it, and it's really based on volume, guys. It is a nonprofit based out of Michigan. The website is NACA, NACA.com. And I don't remember what it stands for. And if you do, cool. If not, doesn't matter. Go to the website.
It's the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. And so when you're introducing this to your clients or to other realtors, people are going to think it's a scam because it is too good to be true. It's crazy. So you have to always say, so it's a nonprofit, and they have $13 billion from Bank of America. They used to have Citibank money too, but they've decided not to do it because they're way too restricted on the guidelines. But $13 billion from Bank of America, and that certainly brings in a lot of credibility when you're talking to your clients. I always present it to them and then let them have a choice. I'll say So
at the end of the day, guys, we're going to let Anna talk because she's done so many of these. You do have to get certified. It's Anna, 3-hour class you got to go sit in?
The client the borrower needs to do it's a 4-hour class. They have them on FaceTime right now, every Saturday from 9 to 1 and 1 to 5, I believe. And then they also, on Facebook Live. And then they also are doing what's called an Achieve the Dream event, where people can go to register and almost get an appointment immediately. So basically, every client starts with the workshop. It's 4 hours long. I do recommend that you sign up and go through it so you know more about it. And then after that, the client, after about 3 weeks, they get an appointment. And at that appointment it's called an intake session, is 2 hours long. And they will go through all of their lending documents. And NACA also requires them to do a budget because the whole goal is to make homeowners and keep homeowners. And by the way, right now, real quick, sorry to go on this tangent. If you have anybody that is in trouble, they actually started because of the 2008 recession and with a home save program. And so the purchase program has only been around for about 4 or 5 years. But if you have anyone that is in trouble, they are a really good resource and advocate for your clients to work through with the banks. But anyway, they meet with the client, with the counselor once a month. These loan officers have 500, 600, 1,000 clients in their pipeline. So regular lender where you can get a pre-qual in 10 minutes. And you cannot put a purchase contract in until you have a final approval from them. So the loan officer only has about an hour a month to work with that particular client. And then once they're qualified, they get a certificate and they go to a 1-hour purchase class. Well, now it's going to be a webinar. And at that point, they will get the pre-qual. And it is a 45-day close. You've got to use their inspectors. You have to use their title company. But overall, it's just a really amazing program.
And so that's why we want to be upfront with you and let you know that, there's certainly some headaches with it. There's some time frame. There's some education. You might get somebody who says, hey, I want to, do this right now, then this isn't the best program for them. But in my opinion, here's the beauty of this. Number one is it's delivering huge value to your clients, right? And number two is it's a unique selling proposition. So just imagine if you were using, like the sequential sequencing that Josh does, and we changed that verbiage and, did that. Hang on, I'm just, Bloom, trying to make sure this gets recorded here. Well, Paul and James aren't around. And imagine the response you would get when you'd, hey, buy a house with no down payment, no closing costs, no PMI, rates, rates under 1%, rates under 2%. There's a couple things there.
Yeah, let me correct you on that, Bob. So the rate is posted daily on the NACA website. Today's rate is 3.3 1/8%. So the rate is as low as 1/8%, but they do need to buy it down that low, or they can. I once got 8% from a builder, and we were able to make. So the client was qualified for $250,000. The house was $300,000. We were able to get 8% from the builder to buy down the interest rate 2 whole points to make the numbers work. And she was able to buy a $300,000 house, even though she was only qualified with a $250,000 payment. So it's kind of like the way that I view NACA or deal with it is like when you go to buy a car, and I sold cars, and what they do is they fit you into the payment. And that's exactly how you can work the NACA program. So I can help my clients get 30, 40, 50, $60,000 more in purchasing power with this program.
So the way that rate buy down works, folks, is how you get sellers to pay closing costs? Well, if there aren't any closing costs, you can use that money to buy the rate down. That's all it is. And is there any limit? Like, let's say we got a $10,000 seller concession. Is there any limit on that?
No. I believe for the seller, it's 10% that the seller can give. And then for the buyer, if they are below the median household income, there is no limit. But if the buyer is above the median household income, then they are only allowed to come in with 4%, buy it down one rate. And yeah. So are we going to do where you're asking me questions too, Bob, or do you want me to just talk about it?
Yeah, either way. We don't have to be that formal. It's our classroom. So tell them a little bit about how you used it to get started in real estate. Because I think that's a lot of agents.
Okay, so I actually got out of the real estate business totally and got into a whole different industry. I even let go of my real estate license. And back in 2013, I came back in, and it was just heaven sent to me. I went to climb a mountain, and I met a lady on a mountain, and we started walking. And this was, back when there was no 100% credit rates were, or credit was high. It was just hard to get a loan. And she tells me, yeah, she goes, I work for a company and we do 100% financing. And I was like, what? And then she said, no PMI. And I was like, And then the rate, 0.5% to 1% below the market. And we don't care about credit. And then the other thing that was very, very important back then was that they are 2 years out of bankruptcy, foreclosure, and short sale. And the last time I checked the guidelines for bankruptcy, if you did a bankruptcy chapter 13, it was 1 day out of that discharge that you could qualify and purchase a house through NACA, which is absolutely crazy because, regular lenders. And by the way, you guys, I did lending for 10 years, and my clients that love and understand this program, most of them are loan officers because even their own they can't beat it. No lender can beat this program. Because it is a nonprofit, it is slow. The customer service is terrible because they have so many clients, and their attitude is, at least here in Phoenix, is, well, if you don't like it, go get a regular loan. But it's very costly. And I want to talk about why I push I don't push them, but it is the best financial advice because you have them set for life. Another really amazing thing about NACA is that if they get in trouble, NACA will give them money to make 3 payments. And if they pay that money back, they can borrow it again in the future if they need it again. The other thing also with NACA, they are a nonprofit, and so they do require, there's a $25 intake per year per person. And then they also require 5 acts of community service. But community service can be referring somebody. And that is, and there's no police about the community service, but nobody really does it. And anyway, so let's see what else I want to say. So that's so when I started that first year, I did 15. I focused 100% because my heart is to help the client and do what's best for the client. And I was helping people really achieve a dream that they didn't even think they had. So a lot of my clients weren't even in the market because they had already said, no, I don't qualify, or have gone and tried to get a loan, and they'd been declined, and they were like, nope, I can't buy. And so then when I would tell them about this program, they would get in and we would do it, and it would work, and I would make their dream come true that they didn't even have. So that was really awesome.
So let me just cut in on you there, Anna, because that's one of the things that I would tell you folks is, especially if you start doing ads, and if you put in there's no FICO limit, like no FICO score required, you're going to get some people that have really crappy credit, and I don't want to take and inundate you with a bunch of people that you waste your time on. The way that would work is they have to go to a seminar. They have to go to a 3-hour class, whether it's live or webinar. Either way, they have to go to it. If they don't go to it and they don't start the process, don't spend time on it, right? They're not really that great of a lead yet, but they have to be the ones who take the step, and the farther in advance you can do that, the better it is. So I know Margaret's got something in here. Hey, came up against this one time and lost a house to it. At the end of the day, I personally, Anna, you tell me what you think, I personally wouldn't take anybody out until they have their full loan approval, and then it's go time.
Correct.
Right. And really the key is to coach the client and also work with the listing agent. I actually lost one to a brand new loan officer, and that was because she had the whole deal wrong from the get-go. But other than that, I literally some listing agents have heard about it. If you look online, the reputation is horrible. People call it a unicorn. Nobody closes any. But I do. And I tell people, I tell the listing agent, I am an expert. And I have gotten deals because I am an expert at it, where otherwise they wouldn't have done it. If it was my first NACA deal, they would not have worked with me. And I always tell the listing agents, look, this file has gone through complete underwriting. And so the worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to need an extension. And that's it. I mean, the last one that I closed, they have really bettered. I actually stopped promoting them for about a year or so because a lot, our prices were going up so high. It wasn't helping our clients very much. But the last one I closed, we closed on time, no hiccups, and they just do the stuff that's undoable. By the way, another thing that they do is they will do up to 125% of the purchase price for a rehab. So if somebody is just in love with a certain...
Anna, you dropped out. So I see a bunch of the questions, guys, and remember I told you, Margaret's like, hey, what's the normal time frame? There is no normal time frame. It's however busy they are, right? The time frames are the problem for the seller. Hey, I see those comments. Remember I told you this isn't perfect, but this is a great conversation starter. What I will tell you is when my kids go to buy a house, this is what I'm going to have them use. I'm just going to get it done up front, okay? So you just need to know that if you get it done up front, you get them through loan approval, then you start looking for houses, you don't have a headache. And so if you've got them out there and, hey, they're in the middle of and whatever, don't do it. Yeah, it could be 4 months. There was a point in time about, 4 years ago in Phoenix that it was 6 months. And so that's what I told you. It's not perfect. And you just have to understand it and master it. Is it perfect for every person? No. You might be worried, oh, my lender will be ticked off because I'm sending people to this. Guys, I'm going to tell you probably 60 or 70% of them will end up going with a conventional loan based on how busy or what time frame it is. But guess what? You got to talk to them up front. And so, like, Josh, I think you're still on here. If you could unmute, like, could you imagine if we put those bullet points into what you're doing with the sequencing program, what kind of response that would get?
Yeah, I don't know if this is working or not, but yeah,
Yes.
the gears are in full motion here.
So literally somebody can close with as little as $1,200 out of pocket. $1,300 out of pocket is what I say. Basically, I ask for a minimum of $1,000 down payment, and then they have to pay for the inspector and their termite fee. Other than that, everything is covered. They pay the title fees. All the lender, there is absolutely no lender fees. And by the way, I think now because of this coronavirus, we may be having some more foreclosures, and Bank of America may have more homes to sell, REO homes. So a client who has gone through NACA, and when they qualify, they get first right of refusal on Bank of America REO homes. And here's the kicker. NACA will give them 10%. So if the rate, can you imagine that? The rate's going to be, 5/8 of a percent, 3/8 of a percent with NACA. Oh, on the buy down with a regular lender, 1% buys down the interest rate about 1/8 of a point. With NACA, 1% buys down the interest rate 1/4 of a point.
Say that again, Anna.
With a regular lender, 1% of the purchase price will buy down the rate by 1/8 of a point. It's on a regular loan. It's costly. With NACA, 1% will buy down the interest rate 1/4 of a point. So about double the amount.
So all those things in there, folks. But there are some headaches with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know what, Bob, let's go through the questions so that I don't forget. There is so much to talk about on this program.
All right, so let me scroll up. I'll scroll up to the top and start them there. Any loan limits?
They are conventional loan limits.
That's easy, right? What are the time frames for a contract? I think I answered that, Margaret. It's however busy they are. But once somebody's approved, Anna, so you get somebody, they're through underwriting, they say, all right, Anna, go out and find them a house.
Right.
How long do they have it? How long does it take to close?
It's a 45-day close. And by the way, you guys, right now they are doing what's called an Achieve the Dream event. They did these back when, they do them every year, but back when we had the recession, they had 20,000 people here at one of our stadiums. And basically, they're doing the Achieve the Dream event. They can start doing the class, somebody can actually, if they have all their paperwork together, I'm talking taxes, W-2s, bank statements, all of their documentation that requires to do a loan, they go to the workshop. They can schedule as soon as June 18th and actually talk to a counselor. And I understand those do not take 4 or 5 months because that counselor is trying to get them as qualified as fast as possible. So that's really exciting for that. And they're having these Achieve the Dream availability is on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday, and Sundays for I think the next month.
The other thing to consider too, folks, is when you get certified with them, which I'm not sure if it still looks the same. Like Ann, I had to go on a Saturday morning from whatever it was, 9 to 12, 8 to 12, whatever it was. But they also start flipping you customers too when you're certified.
That's right, they do. Now they do have their own real estate agents, and I'm glad you brought that up. So if you're going to put somebody through NACA, make sure that you register them. And before you register them, get a 1-year buyer broker agreement because it's really interesting. Sometimes you will lose I have heard realtors lose clients to NACA because if it takes them 4 or 5 months to get through the program and you have not contacted them and they forget your name. And when they get qualified, they're asked to fill out a sheet that says, who is your realtor? And if they don't know who your realtor is, they're going to probably use the NACA realtor, who, by the way, gets paid about well, here in Arizona, I don't know if it's different in other states, they make $2,000 a deal. So it's not very much money, because they are being spoon-fed that.
All right, cool. Hang on, let me scroll back up. Every time you guys ask a question, it takes me that. Can you use it as a refi?
No, you cannot use it as a refi.
All right, and the buy down, we told you, is this program available in Oregon or Washington? I don't see it on the screen, although I'm looking from the side. We're going to check on Washington. We think it may be available. It just wasn't listed on their thing.
It's not available in Oregon.
Okay, so Shauna asked a great question. What do I do to get it available in my state? Start calling. They're open to do it if they see volume. So what I would tell you is everybody on our EXP team in each one of these states should be calling. How fast they do that, I can't tell you. But again, I want you to remember, even this, let's say this isn't available in your state. Well, if you're talking to agents from other states that this is available, nobody else is out there teaching this stuff, folks. And so at the end of the day, that's just another attraction that they can come in and work with us at EXP. So it becomes a recruiting tool. Because as Josh told you, hey, his wheels are clicking. I knew they would, because of just changing what he's doing with the whole sequential, whatever it's called. Change that is going to completely change the results in how many leads we generate. And so, if you've got an agent in a state where this is available, let's go and talk to him and get him in business for doing this. Okay?
Yeah. So, Bob, what I meant was, can we go through the questions that I sent you to ask?
Oh, you're assuming I read those. I did Sunday night, but so hang on, let me go to them. Well, you could just answer them too. Well, let's see. The big one. How long after bankruptcy and foreclosure can they buy?
Yep, 2 years. This one, you guys, the first deal that I closed with NACA was for a gentleman who had a lot of money but had filed bankruptcy. He called me on a Craigslist ad. He had $700,000 in the bank, made $300,000 a year himself, and his wife made another $200,000. And he was going to do a hard money loan for a $700,000 home, and he was going to need to put down at 30% because of how soon because of the bankruptcy. And when he called me, he looked at this and it made sense for him. So he bought himself a $350,000 house in Scottsdale, put down the 4% so he could buy his interest rate down to, back in the day, I think it was like 2.5%. And then he put about $100,000 into his house.
So it can be very, very flexible, right? How about somebody who's on a 1099?
Yep, the way they figure the income on 1099 is they average out the last 2 years.
Okay. And everybody thinks this is first-time buyers only or low income, right?
Right. This is not a first-time home buyers program. The only catch is they cannot have anything on title unless it's an inheritance. You can't help that you inherit real estate, and it's got to be like they dig deep. Apparently, in the history of NACA, they declined an underwriter of all things because she did have property under an LLC, and they found it. So the way it works when you have somebody that owns a home is if they have equity in it, then you walk. So I'm going to go real quick into a tangent about how this worked for me. So the last closing I did, my client owned 2 homes. Her goal was, and one was paid off. Her goal was to take the money and put down $150,000 on a conventional loan. So her payment would be around $1,100 a month. So what I sat her down, it took me about a half hour to explain it. And I told her about this NACA program. And I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through the NACA program. Because you earn under the median household income, you qualify for a program that's called their HOPA program. And they are going to be able to contribute kind of match your down payment. So you're going to need $12,000 or 12% to bring your interest rate down to about 1/8%. And that's going to be about $40,000. Of those $40,000, NACA is going to give you they're going to give you $30,000. So anything above 4% that you contribute, NACA matches it. So they gave her so basically here's the rundown. She let's say a $200,000 purchase price. She put down 12%, which is 20. I'm actually just using those numbers because they're easy, but never mind. So on her purchase price was actually $275,000. So she put down 12%. 4% went to her buy down. The other 8% that she put down went to principal reduction, and NACA actually gave her 8% of $275,000. Plus, they paid all of her closing costs and everything else. But this took process because we had to sell both of her homes first. The NACA required the final settlement statement from her last sale in order for her to get qualified, and we got qualified and went through it. Now, I got to tell you, my client got antsy because she decided to go live with her parents while we were waiting to get through the NACA program. And she called me and said, you know what? I'm sick of waiting for NACA. I just want to go buy a house. I don't care. I've got the money. She ended up with about $250,000 cash. I have the money. Let's just go get me a regular house. And I said, absolutely. You're the boss. But I want to sit with you one more time and explain to you why we're doing this NACA thing. And so I showed her, and in the next 3 years, I think it was going to save her $90,000. And she just kind of lowered her head and said, darn it, let's go through NACA. And we did it, and we closed, and she's super excited. I mean, I have set her up for life. And now, because she's got so much money left over, we're going to buy another home, another investment home.
So is it only for single family primary residence?
No, they are the most flexible I've ever seen. They are for co-op. You could, I would love to do one of these. Unfortunately, we don't have that many here in Arizona. Is you can purchase a fourplex through this program. So imagine buying a fourplex, 0 down, no PMI, no closing costs. It's absolutely crazy. And on a fourplex, you have to live in one of the units, but they're going to give you 75% of the rental income so that you can afford to buy a fourplex. So if, let's say you're getting, the rents bring in $4,000 each unit brings in $1,200 or $1,000 a month. That's $3,000 for each unit. NACA will give you 75% of that income, so that you can qualify to buy that you can buy more, a lot more like that.
Right. So, gosh, you guys, if you're here in Illinois, I can't see if it's Minnesota or not. I know Ryan Luthi does a ton of multifamily. Guys, again, it's a great lead generator. You'll get business. You'll close some. It can be frustrating, but think about how you're setting people up. If they actually go through with it, again, I would tell you, you get them pre-approved to do it first. So is it, what if somebody doesn't have any credit score?
They will do alternative credit. And real quick, back on the type of property, I just found out they will also do mixed commercial. As long as I know in California, they have a condo on top of an office space. That is crazy to me that they will do that.
That is nuts. So how about if they don't have a rental history?
Okay, so if they don't have rental history, they will want to see savings. So if somebody, if they're making $80,000 a year and they are not paying rent, they ought to have some money saved. So NACA says, if you can show us that, if you want a $1,500 a month payment and you show us you can save $1,500 a month, then you can, for 6 months, then we'll qualify you for that amount, because they are strict on the payment shock of it. Or else, for example, a student, that's a little bit different. But yeah, so they want to see that you're going to be able to stay in the house. Oh, and I'm sorry, on the credit, on the people with no credit, they do alternative trade lines. their phone bill, their car insurance. They really work to help people. And there's companies right now to get a secured card. Like they really work with the client to help get them qualified. I mean, I have had clients who have worked on their credit, on saving money, on their own situation for 2 years, and then they got qualified to buy.
And at least the way I used to look at it was more of a long-term client in terms of, hey, it'll take some time to do it. They might be 6 to 12 months out before they do it, because NACA really does take and educate them. It makes them do a budget. Like, people don't even know what a budget is, right? So they actually do the right thing for people. So I don't know that I would tell you that to think about this like, hey, I could throw this in Facebook and I'll have a client ready, willing, and able to go in 15 days. It's not like that. Would you agree?
Absolutely not. So one of the first questions I ask when I'm talking to somebody who's looking to even buy or sell is, when, what's your time frame? I mean, obviously, that should be one of the first questions we always ask, right? What's the time frame? And so if they're 3, 4, 5 months out, then I'll talk to them about the problem. Well, the way that I see it is, look, I educate my clients on all of their options. It's their decision. So if I can save you $250,000 in the next 5 years, would it be worth it to you to live with family or friends or rent an apartment for a high rent for?
You break it up real bad, and you just dropped off. So let me give you an example, folks. So Ryan, from one of the leads that Josh set up on the sequencing program, his lease expires, I think it's the end of October. And he reached out, I don't know, early March. That would be a perfect person to talk to about this. He had good credit and some other things going for him, but that would be the perfect person. So by the time his lease is up, he would have had this in place. And again, you're like, imagine having a 1/8, 30-year fixed rate loan. Imagine having a 1.5, even 2% 30-year fixed rate loan on a property. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars these people would save? You think they're not going to go out and tell everybody they know, I got a 2-year, I just bought a house, I'm paying 2% on a 30-year fixed rate loan. Oh my God, how did you do that? So understand there's a place for it. And that's why I want to be sure to tell you, this isn't something that, hey, it's going to change your world tomorrow. I would tell you to get educated, go through it, learn about it, practice it. And the ones where it's really best for are people that are a few months out. Not a few months. Hey, if they're 6 months out, that's cool. And then let them do this, because now, again, I've been doing, calls with agents over the last couple days. And one of the questions I ask is, well, what's your unique selling proposition? Why is somebody going to buy a house through you? Well, this would be a pretty good USP, wouldn't it? Because 99% of other agents don't even know about it. And so how powerful would that be? I mean, what if you went and threw a voicemail real quick, like a slide dial, and you can do it through KV Core and whatever it's called now. But basically, what if you could take and send out an email to your database of people you think might be dead leads, right? They're just not responding, not doing anything. Hey, folks, just want to let you know, because of the whole COVID thing, there's a new loan program out that's available with no down payment, no closing costs, no PMI. Interest rates could be, below 2%, whatever it is, right? And you did that. No FICO required. Imagine how many responses you'd get from that. Now it's just having a conversation. Is it appropriate for them? Are they willing to do it? All of those kinds of things. But imagine what that would do to perk up your database of leads, right? So again, why is KV Core so important? Why are having all those leads in there, even if they're, they drop off the face of the earth? Well, I guarantee you send them a message like that, it's going to get their attention if they're serious buyers. And then maybe you could sequence out your list, and for the ones who did respond to you, cool. The ones who didn't, send them out another slide dial and an email a week later and say, hey, hey, I didn't hear from you about that greatest loan program on the face of the earth. Who do you know that would like to buy a house and do no down payment, whatever? How do you know that somebody won't get and send you a referral? And so there's a lot of different ways to use it. It's not all of what you see on the surface. That's why I told you, I wanted to make sure you understood there's some headaches to it. There's some downsides to it. But to me, the upside is way better. And you can hear Anna's lost her connection. Looks like she's back.
I'm back. I'm sorry about that. So
That's right.
I was saying, I told my clients, instead of you losing $100,000, $90,000 over the next 3 years, why don't you, pay an extra, $1,000, $1,200 and rent yourself your own place. And that way you're not living with your parents. And she did it for 2 months and it worked out great.
Yeah. So again, it's always the client that's in control of this. So don't sweat it. And it's their call. And if they call me up and I have that happen, I've had that happen before, and they were like, hey, I don't have time to wait. I really like this house. I want this. And so
yeah, and that
it did.
Absolutely. That's happened many times with me. I've had clients who started it and then they decide that for whatever reason that they don't want to go through it. And we end up going through get a conventional loan. And I do, by the way, I had actually a highly paid guy who worked for commercial title, and he went through the NACA program. And NACA had a purchase price limit of $240,000 here in Surprise area at that time. And he wanted a house that was 245. So first we went through and got a house. I got him accepted, under contract on a NACA house. Then he called me a couple of days later and he said, Anna, you know what? No, because let's just do a conventional loan. I want a house that's 245. I said, fine. So we canceled. We got the house that was 245. Well, he got the disclosure from the lender. He was going to have to come in with $11,000 and his payment was going to be $600 more a month for just $5,000 more. And he came back and he told me, Anna, you're going to kill me because now we're going to be on our second cancellation and third contract. And he goes, I want to go back to NACA. And I go, well, I figured you would come to your senses because that's a lot of money, you guys. And that's a small purchase price. $250,000 is not a lot, but it really made a big difference. And so we went through the program and he ended up really happy with it. And I got a referral from his mom, who just moved from Phoenix here, from Phoenix. And she purchased a $300,000 home with a regular loan and only financing like $75,000.
So Anna, talk about the documentation they'd need.
Well, it's just like a regular loan. They're going to need a budget. They actually, there is a workshop online and there is a budget, and they need to have that. They also need to, it's a conventional loan, you guys. It's a full doc conventional loan. And so they're going to be documented to death practically. And I have had clients who say one more document and I'm done. On that note, there is a ghost in the machine. And one of the things I have to prepare my clients for is you're going to send the document and they're going to see it. You're going to hand it to them physically. They're going to have it. They're going to upload it. And then 2 weeks later, they're going to ask for the same document, maybe 2 or 3 times. Don't get frustrated. That's just the way their system is. Just give them the document. So I tell my clients, whatever you send the NACA, send to me, because as soon as they get the request that they need a document, then I can send it in myself.
So if you just prepare people up front, folks, for what's going to happen, it's not the most pleasant experience. It's not a nightmare, but I honestly believe they're doing the right things with people where they make them actually do a budget. I mean, people have college degrees and never filled out a budget. So how many real estate agents are thinking, hey, what if I was a realtor? Could I do it?
Absolutely. This is a great program for realtors. Yep, absolutely.
Well, that might be I might be able to come up with an intro to talk to an agent about something like that. How about for investment properties, Anna?
It is not for investment properties unless you purchase a fourplex, triplex, or a duplex, or a mixed commercial use, and you are going to live in it. And I'm glad. One thing about that, you guys, is that NACA does put a silent $50,000 lien on the mortgage. And if they catch somebody renting a house that they should be living in, they could call that due. I haven't heard of anybody doing it. You know, they're so short staffed. I don't know that there's any police doing it, but that's not what this program is designed for.
So Mary Redmond in Illinois, so I know you're on the call. So one of the things that I regret here in Phoenix, we don't have very many multi-unit things, right? But think of hometown, Mary, where they could buy one side and rent the other side out and buy a full duplex. Think of all of those 3 and 4 unit apartment buildings in Oak Lawn, in Burbank, and Oak Forest that these could actually be used for to buy and let them live in one of the units. This is a gold mine for you, girl. If you don't kill it with this, it's crazy. And just get good at it. But guess what? There's 3, 2, 3, 4 unit buildings all over Chicago, the Chicagoland area. In Phoenix, I don't know, Annie, do you think there's 1,000 multi-unit, 3 or 4 unit buildings in all of Phoenix?
I don't know, maybe 200.
Yeah, that's my point. So, because I came here going, hey, where are all the 3 and 4 unit buildings? And yeah, they're not here. So anyway, so just to give you an idea, if you're in an area where you have those, you need to understand that. So how about listing agents? How do they work with you on this?
Well, the listing agents actually, they don't like it. The ones I did have, I have had pushback when I contact them and explain to them that I need a 45-day close. My client's doing a NACA, it's a NACA purchase, and and I need a 45 days for it. And then, but I do again. If they have not heard of it, they will Google it. So I tell them up front, look, you're going to go, if you have, and most of them, when I say we're going through it's a NACA loan, NACA conventional loan, have you heard of it? They're going to say no. And then they'll Google it. They'll talk to people at the office, and what they hear is terrible. And I have to say, at least here in Arizona, it's true. Now, I understand they do a great job in the East, but not here. And so I bring it up ahead of time. I said, look, if you're going to Google it, talk to your friends. What you see and hear is probably true, unfortunately, but not for me. I am an expert at this product. So, and I have closed 100% of them. And the worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to close late because we have already gone through underwriting. And so there is nothing, that's going to stop us from purchasing this home. And the other thing that I do tell, because I have coached some listing agent, some other realtors here in the valley that I know, and I just tell them, you tell them that your business partner is an expert at this program and has closed over 35 of them, and then they're like, oh, okay, let's do it.
So one of the things that I added to the listing presentation that we've got for Ryan, what I'm going to show this afternoon, is when I'm in there, again, assuming it falls within a conventional loan range, which most of it here in Phoenix is, and what we're going to target anyway. And one of the marketing systems is special financing, no closing cost mortgage. I'll buy rider signs that say no down payment, no closing costs, no PMI, call me for details. Guys, if you had 10 listings and you had those rider signs on all 10 of those listings, and you put all of that in Zillow in your description, right? So it goes out to the Zillows and the Redfins and everything else. How many calls are you going to get? Well, isn't our job when we're listing the house to get as much traffic to it as possible? And we'll have details at the open house. You think that won't help your open house attendance? And so I'm going to show that today on the call, where I just added it to the listing presentation because, well, that's all it is. And then how about rehab? Well, we talked about that. You can do 125% loan to value to do that, right? Right.
Yes, you have to use a NACA certified contractor, and you can get your contractor certified through them. They have to have insurance. They got to see their license. It's a process. I do not recommend it whatsoever, though. At least here in the Valley, in Arizona, it's contractors don't want to do it. They get hung up on the paperwork and they say, it's too much paperwork for me to do, so I'm not interested in being a NACA contractor or doing this project. I did one for a lady. She ended up getting $45,000 from NACA to do the project, and it was It was cumbersome. It was not a pleasant experience for her with the contractor or with NACA, but she got it done. And there was one realtor that I walked through the program. Her son did a complete rehab, and I believe it took her about a year to finally get the house done, get all the monies, get everybody paid, and everything like that. So it is definitely going to have to be, a project of love in order to make it doable.
See, here's the thing, guys. When you go through all that, and let's assume it's not a pleasant thing in that scenario, but when they actually sit and look at the value of their house, look at how many, literally, it'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars that they'll save in payments and interest. And remember we talked, hey, how do you buy a house and pay it off in 7 to 10 years? What if you were qualified to buy a house, and not that you wanted to have that $600 higher payment, but let's say you took $400 or $500 of that that you would have been paying in PMI and other things, and you applied that to the principal every month. Well, there's your house paid off in 7 to 10 years right there. And so, it might be a painful process, but when you get done and they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity in, say, the next 5 years, it can ease the pain, don't you think? So let me go through some of these. What's the debt to income ratio, Anna?
Like conventional, 33,
Just conventional stuff.
45. Yep.
All right. So what time is your call, Bob? I'm not sure which call you're talking about. It's only for people that are members of the auction platform. You have to do that with an FHA. You almost have to look at homes that have been on the market for 90 to 180 days. And not really, Graylin. It just depends on how you sell it.
Right.
How long do they have to stay in the house before they can sell it?
They can sell a day after they close. There is no prepayment penalty. Remember, this is all to benefit the client. Yeah.
So if somebody buys a really smoking deal and they do a rehab loan, let's assume it's a pain in the butt, but they get the money to do the rehab and they could make $40,000 selling it. Huh.
Yeah. Oh, and real quick,
cool.
Yeah. Also, you can use the NACA program again once you have lived in the home for 3 years. And this program actually also helped me helps me get listings, because I had a client who helped her mother get through the program. Well, she had a house, and let's say her payment was $1,400 a month for $155,000. We did the numbers, and I showed her, well, if we sell your house and we do your buy down, then you can have a $250,000 house for the same money. And so she ended up selling her house, and we bought a new building. And I have done this several times with NACA, where I take people who own a house and they're paying, a decent amount, $1,200, $1,400, and then I bump them up to, it's crazy, $100,000, $75,000 more of a house for the same money.
Graylin's asking stats on house and how long and how many lose it. We don't have that, Graylin. I'm sure they do. But here's the deal: like in this COVID thing, they would have forgiven 3 months worth of rent, 3 months worth of payments. So NACA it's a little harder to get in trouble. It's not impossible. Their goal is to take and help people get into homes and keep them.
Right. So the default rate is 0.005, which is crazy low.
So no investors, guys. Unless they want to buy a house that they live in, fix it up and do that. But remember, if an investor does that, they could do one flip like that one time. They'd have to wait 3 years before they could do another NACA deal. So it's really not necessarily an investor, other than like Ryan Luthi in Minnesota. I don't think he's on here, so you miss a call on Tuesday. You miss a lot. He does a lot of multifamily investors. Hey, if they live in one of the units, and Anna, is there a limit? Like let's say, is it they got to live in one of those units for a year? Or they always have to live in it.
It would need to always be lived in by them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So guess what, guys? Get a little bit of equity and then have them refi and move on. Credit score. We already answered, Ed. There is no credit score required. Would be nice for the one I'm buying if they could close faster. Yep. That's what I said, guys. I kind of warned you in the Facebook page. There's some headaches to it, and there are some downsides. But I'm going to tell you, I guarantee, I don't know if Josh is still on here or not, but him and I will kind of like bounce some ideas around in terms of verbiage and things like that we could use. It would be a lead generation machine. You'll just have to be educated. You'll have to sort, and just don't do what every realtor does. Oh my gosh, I got a lead. They want to go look at a house. Let me go show my house, and they're going to do NACA. No, that's not what you do. They go through the whole process. They go to the class. I'm not spending a minute with somebody until they do that. Now, if they could buy a house with a conventional loan too, then I would do it, because like I said, most of the time that I did that, where I talked to people about it, they just flipped over and said, I don't have the time. I'm just going to do a conventional loan. All right, cool.
Yeah. So one thing.
Be careful.
Right. So I tell my clients this is like having a baby. You know, it hurts. It's stressful. It's painful. But then when you have the baby, when I give them the keys, they forget all about what a hassle the program was.
Yeah, that's a good way to talk. That's actually a really good way to talk about it. And that's all. Yeah, Graylin said it's all about options. That's all it is, folks. It's about creating conversations, giving good reasons to meet, all those things. And if it works for them, ultimately, they're the one in control of their decision. Hey, they can get started and go, oh my God, too much hassle for me. Cool. In the meantime, you've already established a relationship, built value with them, and you're going to probably close 99% of those people. So not to sweat it out. You cannot own a home already. Nope. You got to own one home. That's it.
Well,
so not for investors. However, which way you guys want to spin the question, it's not for investors. Unless you want to buy a multifamily unit and live in one. Other than that, it's not for investors.
Right. So here's the deal. You cannot be on title. You cannot have an LLC. You cannot have any property. So you would need to divest it or sell it, or if something is paid off, put it in somebody else's name. You cannot be on title. That is their one thing. But it is not for. I mean, I have sold many that people own a home and we sell it, and then we use that money, or we use that money so that they end up with 1/8% or 0.5%.
Guys, boy, when I teach you how to take and calculate the money that they save on that, on a $250,000, let's call it a $250,000 house here, the interest that they would save on that would probably be between $150,000 and $200,000. How much hassle and headache you willing to go through for $150,000? And that would be the way that's the way that I always positioned it. Guys, I'm telling you up front, it's a pain in the butt. Never thought of the baby one. That's a really good one. But at the end of the day, guys, if you got an extra $150,000 that went in your pocket instead of going to the bank, how much headache would you put up with? And then it's all up to them, not you. So, all right, well, 9:58, so we're going to keep this at an hour. Anna, thanks so much. Even though you fell on, fell off. It's the technology challenges. So, guys, I'm going to be in my office for the next 2 hours. So if there's things you want to cover, ask questions, whatever, I'm going to be over there. You can just simply click in go to and just find the offices in my name, and we'll go from there. Next week, we're working on a couple of special guests on that. So make sure you're watching the Facebook page, and then we'll post some things about upcoming agent attraction classes that we'll do. Get you back into the swing of it again live, because it is absolutely life-changing. So with that, thanks for being here. Hope you got a lot out of it. Anna and I are talking about different ways she may be able to take and help coach, work with you on transactions to get you through some of those things. We'll kind of keep you apprised of that with whatever we figure out on that, so that you have a go-to person that would have some expertise in it. So with that, folks, thanks for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Go out and list some properties, sell some properties, and have some fun, especially as we're opening up. Talk to you guys later.